And I'm Michael Kearns, the Artistic Director of QueerWise. And here we are.
Here we are.
You want to talk first?
Well, sure, I'll talk first. How many of you are here at Lineage for the first time today?
Wow.
I think this is close to 100%. Welcome. We're so happy to have you here. We have been an organization that's been around. We are celebrating our 25th anniversary just next year. And we bring theater, music, dance here as a way to bring the community together to address all kinds of important issues and have discussions and just create a space where people can share their stories through art. So welcome.
Last year they did a 40th anniversary of AIDS show, the name of it was.
A New Day.
A New Day, and I was fortunate enough to be invited to participate in that show. And I fell in love with everyone here and the space and the notion of what Hillary just said about this creative force that is happening here. And I thought, first of all, I saw the dancers, and then my brain started going, I thought, well, we should do the World AIDS Day show there. We did it last year, and then we reprised it this year, entirely different show, a much bigger show, a much more alive show that you're gonna see today. So I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm thrilled you're here.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to this evening's QueerWise performance honoring World AIDS Day. I'm Michael Kearns, founder of QueerWise and the director of the piece we'll be sharing with you tonight, giving special thanks to the Skylight Theater Company. Okay, I know some of you, maybe all of you, have been questioned about attending this performance. World AIDS Day? Are they still doing that? So passe, honey. AIDS? A show about AIDS in 2023? Isn't it virtually over? I haven't heard about anyone dying in a decade or so. For the record, AIDS ain't over. And in tonight's show, you'll hear about one of our LGBTQ+ heroes who recently died. And yes, we are still doing that. A brief history lesson about QueerWise. 11 years ago, a writing group was created to specifically give LGBTQ+ scribes over 50 a place to chronicle their stories. Our first spoken word theater event was produced by our Skylight family in 2012, followed by performances at venues throughout Los Angeles, while establishing an annual World AIDS Day show that became one of our signature pieces.
I'm Andy Rawlison, and while I'm not over 50, I'm glad to be here and share some stories with you.
Hi there, I'm Christine Papalexis. They say living well is the best revenge. So I do. I live well. I enjoy my life, my friends, my work, and I remember those who are no longer with us. I live for myself.
Bring back our fallen angels. And like Barry Manilow's key changes, let my diva instincts carry us from the past to the present with spine, tingling, tears, and joy.
Hi, I'm Lucia Chappelle. I could wear all my hats, but they wouldn't fit over my hair. I'm a short, black, feminist bi-dyke, past a certain age, from a middle-class background, with a liberal arts education, who practices the magic of ministry and the witchcraft of writing while using she-series pronouns. I've been called the grandmother of queer radio, which may or may not be a dubious distinction.
Buenas noches. I'm Dr. Tony, or Doctora S, up to you. Singer-songwriter, poet, playwright, fiction writer, troublemaker, artivist, and la tía lesbiana de toda la tierra, para todos los putitos, hijotitos, pollitos, mosquitos.
Hi, and I'm Wanda Lee Evans. And as far as you know, how many people in your circle have AIDS? Or are you aware of anyone who does? Does anyone in your circle talk about AIDS? Well, I work at not being overwhelmed, and it's easy to get stuck. I invite you to prod, to poke, to push me on balance, off. Your questions may entice, inspire, demand, motivate, remind me of my free will, my privilege, my hope, my fragility, my fight, and my right.
We're here, we're queer, we're not going shopping. I'm Marie Cartier. I still think of cruising the Beverly Center, chanting that as a doorway to the magical world of we can change anything! Of course we couldn't change everything, but we did change a lot. We definitely changed ourselves.
Look at you wonderful people. Hi, I'm Bradford Bancroft. I kind of feel like I am a part of everything that I have met, everyone I have met. And I feel so privileged to be here with all of you today. We think about those who couldn't. And we are
QueerWise!
Every Monday night, our group of writers meet, and now you can be under 50, by the way, and they're given a prompt. Most of you live in LA, so you know what a writing prompt is. We write for 20 or 30 minutes. One of our first prompts for this evening's show, what is your first memory of hearing about AIDS?
Where's that rainbow you hear about? Where's that lining they cheer about?
In 1985, my lover, Scott Giant Valley, had written a play performed at the Fifth Estate Theater called Fracture. The lead character is abandoned by his partner when diagnosed with AIDS. Was Scott warning me that he might have AIDS, foretelling how I would handle it? A year later, Scott was hospitalized with pneumonia, and it was my mother who suggested Scott see a doctor at Kaiser who specialized in infectious diseases. Soon, we were on the wagon train of memorial services. Joining support groups became Russian roulette as members continued to die. I remember hearing an obscure Barbra Streisand song, "Where's That Rainbow?" at the first HIV funeral I went to. I thought about Over the Rainbow and the LGBTQ rainbow colors. As AIDS spread like gangrene and Scott's quality of life plunged, we isolated ourselves from the groups. We crawled into an escape hatch where I imagined Scott might never succumb to this virus. I did take care of Scott the last 6 months of his life, but fear of converting to positive was eating at me. We slept in separate beds.
She used to bring back dozens of pictures once or twice a year when she returned from South Africa. She'd have a million stories about the orphans she visited. For a long time, she raised money at the church to support the AIDS orphanage and bring the children clothes and toys and needed things. She worked hard to give them hope. People were happy to help, and the children's smiling faces brightened the lobby. There were times, on the other hand, when it seemed kind of, creepy? Colonial? White savior-ish? To have those pictures of children on the dusty streets grinning at the camera to send thanks to the white West Hollywood queer folks on the other side of the world. What kind of people did they imagine our solitary missionary represented? What stories did she tell them about her American home? After one trip, she returned to questions and suspicion about her individual mission to her South African AIDS orphans. She was accused of raising money from the church to pay for her trips home, even though the orphanage was far from where she herself lived. She was asked for accounting ledgers, but she had none. The complainers said they would join a more reputable organization to serve African AIDS orphans. Another black woman who tried to intervene came back with the answer, they just don't want nobody black to do nothing. No other organization appeared. Nobody wondered what happened to the orphans we used to see so many pictures of. They're certainly all grown by now, if they're still alive.
Sharon and I arrived at the agreed upon coffee place on Fountain, and the server behind the counter was a curvaceous young woman, a luscious cross between Betty Boop and Betty Page. So Betty LaBabe saunters over to our table where Sharon and I are sitting, and she leans over so we could see her ample bosom framed carefully in black lace. She winked at us, blew us a kiss, and then she slid over with her immaculately red manicured nails a paper that looked like a check, but we hadn't ordered yet. So she blew us a kiss as she slinked back to the counter. I got up from the table and I followed to the counter and ordered 2 espressos to go. To my surprise, when I looked in my pocket purse, Betty leaned forward, took my face in her hands, and she whispered, "It's on the house." Took me a while, but I felt Sharon's hands on my back somewhat protectively as she guided me to the door. We gotta come here more often, I said breathlessly. Sharon said. Next day, Sharon went to the Army surplus place and bought painter's pants that looked sort of like scrubs, like nurses wear. And when it was almost time that evening, I put my hair going for kind of a Nurse Ratchet look or something. And at the agreed upon time, Sharon drops me off the back of the hospital. I head for the staff elevator, and I caught a glimpse of myself, and I was like, yeah, Nurse Ratchet, not a good look on me. Especially, I'm just a Chicana lesbian pretending to be inconspicuous as a hospital employee. So I get off the elevator and I look for the room number Betty LaBabe gave me. The corridor was not well lit and it seemed too quiet, even for a hospital. So when I found the room, I peeked in the door and I saw 3 other operatives. Without saying a word, we acknowledged each other and waited. Somebody's Timex alarm went off. Well, the other nurse gave us 1-word descriptors. I grabbed the prescription bottles, dozens, mostly full. Another took the photos and pictures. A third took the scarves and the hand-knitted blanket. A 4th got the teddy bears and other loved objects. We each put our items in hospital trash bags as quickly and as quietly as possible. The head operative kept a lookout. And then the Timex alarm went off again, and we stopped what we were doing and headed out, each to a different hallway to avoid being stopped. We took the stairs on our way out.
big brown eyes, a southern boy who lived down the hall from me at the brewery. Bart was an artist, a good friend, a great neighbor, and so much fun. His art was surprising. He made things from plastics, like plastic chewed bubblegum earrings, kind of gross, but his work was recognized around the world, especially respected in Japan, and is gracing the pages of prestigious art magazines. He was also one of the creators of the ginormous Stay Puft Marshmallow Man in the Ghostbusters, if you remember that. Sadly, he never lived to see how his creation entertained generations of moviegoers. He was the first person I was close to who died of AIDS. The one I had laughed with, had shared meals with, and beer with. The one who was part of my daily life, because he just lived down the hall. He was doing fine. Then he was in the hospital. Those beautiful brown eyes wide with fear. Only 5 weeks later, he was dead. It was the 80s in Los Angeles, the beginning of the end for so many. The lesions, the bottles of pills, the relentless weight loss, needles, blood, and the fear of it. The stark look of utter terror in their eyes, reflected in their hearts, in their minds. So many died, young men, men full of life. They drifted away, they disappeared, to be heard about later. I asked my friend Amy, you know, I haven't seen James in ages. How is he? Not really wanting an answer. After he died, his family came and took everything, Amy said. They took everything. His friends, his real family, we were sent away. We weren't allowed anything that had belonged to him. His gorgeous collection of books, his stacks of exquisite fashion drawings, his perfect suits, his flawless shoes.
The night I disguised myself as Nurse Ratched was the first of many nights as an operative of the Queer Underground Railroad. And our primary task was to collect as many medications as we could to redistribute to those in need who didn't have insurance or access to a hospital. I received my invitation to the memorial 4 days later. I recognized the teddy bear and other items from a few nights ago. And I noticed the service was for several people lost to AIDS. Someone in the pews sobbed as he held the hand-knit blanket. And when he got up to speak, he said he had items of a loved one because we smuggled them out on the Underground Railroad. And I heard someone else say that if we were caught, we'd be arrested and charged with felonies, possession with intent to sell, transporting of hazardous materials, and other acts of terrorism. In those days, the hospital incinerated everything within moments of the patient's passing, or when they eventually noticed the individual had died. Nothing was left for posterity or a memorial, even if you had just brought it in 5 minutes ago, and it still had the sticker on it from the overpriced hospital gift shop. So after the memorial, I went to the coffee shop on Fountain, hoping to get a brief of Betty LaBabe. But somebody else was working behind the counter. So I carried the ovarios, ovaries, to inquire about Betty LaBabe. And a trusting young woman said nothing but scurried to the kitchen and didn't come out again. A handsome young dyke from the kitchen came out, walked towards me, and whispered that Betty had passed rather unexpectedly. Eyes filled with tears. I wondered if any of her cherished items were rescued by the Underground Railroad.
Peter and I were close. We would talk late at night. I would call him and we'd talk on the phone as I grocery shop, and he wanted to hear all about my butch girlfriend drama. There was always drama for me then. Big emotions, makeup, breakup. Peter wanted to hear all of that. And then he would talk about the fact that he was dying. and that he was so angry about it. Peter was so sweet and cool and angry and act-uppy. And we were both in ACT UP. And when he died, it was like all that anger and rage, all that creativity, whoosh! A twister sucked it into the sky. Earlier, when another friend died, I wasn't in ACT UP yet. Not really even in Angelino yet. I went next door to my neighbor's house in Venice Beach, who I had only said hi to. But you know, he was gay and I was gay. And I had only just moved to LA, and I didn't know that many people. My friend was dying, had died. I knocked on his door and he said, "Are you okay?" Because I started crying. And he said, "What happened? Did you hit my car or something?" And I said, "My friend just died of AIDS." And I couldn't talk anymore. Was it even real? It was real. Was it real? He made me a cup of tea. And I could see that this was not new news to him. Then it was still new news to me. But he listened to me, and he was gay, and I was gay. And in 1987, you know, that was enough. Enough. And he hugged me when I left. And it was enough.
Look at this, you guys. I walked in to a welcoming dungeon with the heart of an innocent, the bravery of a fool, the curiosity of a homeless cat, and got swept up in the sensual overload of a youthful exuberance, my young dick leading the way. Friends would exclaim, "Hey, let's go check out that grotto down on Boss Street. And what the fuck, let's put some lysergic in our eyeballs so we can see a little clearer." And off we went, giggling down some murky, dank staircase to a velvet-lit cave, pulsating with the beat of jackhammer, methamphetamine music. I wasn't afraid. I don't know why. I knew I was something to behold in those days. I explored dungeon after dungeon with my adventurous mates, glory holes, fishnet bondage baskets, unafraid. Men, women, older, younger, fat, ugly, gorgeous, disturbed. Okay by me. Until the partygoers started to dissipate. More and more starting to disappear. I didn't know why. I didn't care at first. And then those that I truly cared about started not to show up. Yeah, I'll be there. But no. What the fuck is going on here? Where did all the laughter go? Why this overwhelming feeling of change, of sadness, of inevitability? All the joy that you put into your body starts to be used against you. The needles and the dicks and the sloppy wet nightcaps conspire against you. And some of us are paying the price for that behavior. Some of us paid the ultimate price, like soldiers who have bravely fought on the front lines of a nuclear explosion, facing the invisible poison of a deadly insurgency, the kind of blight that lets you carry on the dance while secretly being invaded by an enemy that is so stealthy, it doesn't let you know it's deadly until it's too late.
Whatever was going on before seemed like background noise until I had to look AIDS in the face. It was the mid-'80s, and my brother Michael was that first face. He called me from Good Samaritan Hospital in Los Angeles, letting me know he had been admitted. His summer cold developed legs. This was shortly after our recent return from a family reunion, Tallahassee, Florida. Lying in that hospital bed, he started crying when he told me he tested positive for AIDS. I hid my pain and my fear right away, initially going into big sister mode, which became me taking care of him emotionally. This included holding secrets, but I did not do that well. So, Mama was brought into the mix pretty immediately. Well, we were lucky, because like LMA, having learned how to navigate welfare and other services to take care of us, 5 children for at least 15 years, wasted no time in finding out what was possible regarding the survival of her 4th child. There were other visits to friends of Michael and mine in hospitals who did not make it. Jackson was one of them. I don't know where or if his family was around, but I do know that he died alone. And visiting my gorgeous and very talented dancer friend, Barry, I hid my inner gasp when I did not recognize him after he opened the door to his apartment. Moments later, I realized at a root level, the Barry I knew and loved had nothing to do with his flesh. We talked for hours. The visit inspired a fundraising note I sent to friends and acquaintances that did allow him to receive immediate funds, which would not have come his way otherwise for quite a while. And though AIDS taught me this repeatedly, I needed to show up for these Black brothers of mine. Initially, unless fortunate to have personal support or of some sort, many were underserved and ostracized at all levels, right? Families, jobs, churches, healthcare, food, shelter. Yes, yes, yes. And these things they did improve tremendously for many years. Service organizations, individuals multiplied. So many more options are available now. But in the meantime, those words now are the name of a men's group, which includes in its rallying cry to bring an end to the disparities still faced by those in the marginal, muted colors of the rainbow. And by the way, my brother Michael, who took flight in 2010, reminds me to see some light or light.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
When I was a child, I vividly remember the first time I encountered the term HIV. It was through the groundbreaking reality TV show, The Real World, in 1994, and the unforgettable presence of Pedro Zamora. Pedro was a very cute Cuban American, and he shared his experience as a gay man living with HIV on a mainstream platform, defying the stigma surrounding the virus and sexuality at that time. He was the first openly gay person and with HIV that I knew. His courage and willingness to openly talk about himself and his situation left an indelible mark on my generation. Initially, I was confused about HIV. How did someone acquire this virus? Can it be cured? Will I catch it? He's gay. I think I'm gay. Maybe I would catch it. I couldn't ask my parents, and Google didn't exist. Could I look it up at the card catalog at the library? There was no way I could check out a book on HIV. It was a small town and the librarian would know. So I kept my eyes on the TV screen each week to learn more. Sadness sank my heart as I witnessed Pedro's deteriorating health. I had a crush on Pedro. I knew that it was not like the crushes of my straight peers because there would be no happy ending. Disassociation, a word that I'd since learned from therapy, became a coping mechanism against the harsh realities of Pedro's suffering. Surely he wouldn't die. He was too young. He was too energetic. Young people, they don't really die, right? Then fear consumed me. The realization that a virus really could kill people, that it could get me too. And the biggest fear of all came from the fact that it stigmatized the gay population, of which I might be a part of. Not only was it a sin to be gay, as I was taught, but now HIV was a new tool to be wielded by the conservative movement. My parents, my family, my friends, my community, would they use it against me? Pedro's presence on the real world, 1994, was a turning point in my life. His bravery and determination to tell his story and his very public death, only hours after the final episode of the Real World aired, overwhelmed my young mind. I was 13 years old when Pedro died. He was 22.
It is as inevitable as LA traffic. We've got to talk about it. Yep, sex. How can we honestly tell stories about HIV/AIDS without mentioning sex? Let's talk about sex, baby.
Let's talk about AIDS test results. The first time you heard about AIDS test results. Oh, yeah, let's talk about sex and people having sex with other people. Let's talk about me fucking someone who said she had broken up with her ex. Right. Let's talk about when your heart was breaking because someone cheated on you and that was enough. That was enough. Heartbreak. The late 90s. No, it wasn't the first time I heard about AIDS, but it was the first time I thought I got it. I was crazy in love with this woman and we had a lot of body contact. We had some kind of pact to make love every day. Then she stood me up on Valentine's Day. Why? Because her ex fell down in a bowling alley because she was drunk, and so of course she had to be with her. Oh, Al-Anon, where were you in my life back then? I thought, of course you were not with her then if she was falling down drunk in a bowling alley still attached to her bowling ball and she has knocked out 2 teeth. Of course, that's exactly the reason you were not with her. But that was exactly the reason she was going to stay with her. And no, she had still somehow found the time to be sleeping with her. Well, we didn't sleep together every night, I guess. There you go. Lesbians. And then I found out the ex had slept with everyone during the supposed breakup. And then me, as a member of ACT UP, and someone who should have known better, had no idea who had slept with who. And as we said back then, you've slept with anyone this person had slept with. And I couldn't even figure out if she had slept only with women. And then I was worried because I couldn't find out any more about her because my ex cut me off. The time I spent waiting for my test results ballooned into how could you be so stupid? To, I must have it. To, calm down, you don't have it. To, you've got it. And then waiting in the office at the LA Gay and Lesbian Center and then getting called in, and then inhale, exhale. I didn't have it. I didn't have it. After that, oh yeah, I had oral sex through saran wrap. You know, I did things differently. And I never forgot that I was having sex with everyone someone had had sex with before me. I learned to not have sex with someone who didn't give me test results.
Back then, even lesbians who had only had sex with other lesbians started going to the Safe for Sex workshops. The most challenging, well for me, okay, were the workshops done by the leather and lace community. But the real fun was going home to practice. So, I mean, but you know, there were challenges. Let's face it, dental dams were nobody's idea of fun. And you know, back then they didn't sell tongue strengthening equipment, gear, you know, weights, like for other muscles. And I mean, what would you do if your tongue spasmed mid-adventure? Santa Maria, is that good? Well, so I felt intrigued and insecure at the same time. I hadn't paid attention to the classes where they show you how to put a condom on a banana with your mouth. I mean, you know, with a strap on, you know, you have to use your hands, and you know, and the dildo doesn't have nerve endings, so no worries there. And of course, the plug-in magic wands, as all lesbians in the know knew, were infinitely more powerful and longer lasting than batteries. But you needed it to hide the extension cords to reach from the wall to the bed, sofa, or wherever else. And back in LA, you had two choices: the pleasure chest or Radio Shack. But lucky for me, the Silver Lake Radio Shack was run by a leather daddy, so I was in business. Oh, and lubes. Ah, how awful. Okay, truth, right? Truth. How many of your friends got the worst fucking yeast infections using the wrong lube? I mean, going organic was not necessarily in your best interest back then, and the taste, petrochemicals. And vegetables, oh my God. Saran wrap, and you couldn't go with the cheap shit too. I mean, no Dollar Tree for ye. It's like, it had to be a brand name, and then you were worried about stuff like it going up your nose because you were breathing too hard, or you know, did you have the right gloves? Because the plastic gloves you could buy at the market to base children, I mean, chicken. Oh my God, I lost my mind. Just talking about this stuff, it was so horrible. I mean, these things were not your friends. I mean, a friend of mine lost her glove inside her lover's vagina, and the only place they could go to was the West Hollywood Lesbian Health Clinic, because they were just mortified, and they were open 24/7. So yes, you had to have a really good sense of humor, because you never knew what kind of situation, unexpected of course, you would find yourself in. And you know, if you can't laugh with your lover, who can you laugh with? I mean, what is the point of being queer if you can't make a joke?
May told me, make a fist and then squeeze this bowl, as she rubbed alcohol on my arm. The needle dug into the large vein in my right arm. Then May proceeded to take 18 vials of blood for the research study. After fasting for 16 hours, I was hungry. By the time she finished, I felt like a vampire starving for blood. May consoled me. Just one more tube and we'll be done. I'll bring you some tomato juice. Bloody. I was at the UCLA men's study getting tested for HIV because I found out that Scott had cheated on me. I'd been part of the study since 1984. This research program was monitoring the progression of male HIV status. After the blood draw, the next stop, they wanted a semen sample. Please ejaculate into this small plastic container. There is a book in the restroom of nude guys to help you masturbate.
Yeah.
I wondered how I was going to aim into this thing. I routinely didn't use gay pornographic pictures to masturbate, so I'd have to improvise. Let me think. Richard, that's it. So I sit on the toilet bowl and try to get stiff. Okay, is Richard Gere. As I work myself to an orgasm, I try to hold the small bottle in front of the top of my penis. Oh shit! The damn cup falls out of my hand. I'm coming too quickly. The semen is shooting across the floor before I can capture it. I grab the cup and I make sure the remaining dribble gets in. Oh, I better wipe up the cum on the floor. This is tricky. I feel like I'm cleaning up after a crime. What if I don't get every ounce? Will I be thrown off the study for desecrating the bathroom? Well, on my next visit, I was told that they discontinued this portion of the study because the janitors complained about the cleanup.
I bet they did. A previous boyfriend of mine was HIV positive, although he didn't tell me until after we'd gotten to that pivotal point of undressing and jumping into bed. I tested 2 weeks ago and I'm all clear there. What about you? I blinked my eyelashes, expecting him to tell me that he was all clear too, and then romantically reached for the lube. I'm positive undetectable, he said. I dropped the lube. Not because I was surprised by his response, but because some of the lube had leaked out on the bottle and it was slippery. He jumped at the sound of the bang the bottle made when it hit the wooden floor. You are, I asked? Yes, is that okay? Sure, it's all good. I waved my hand dismissively and picked up the lube. We were gonna use condoms anyhow, and I knew, being undetectable, he couldn't transmit the virus to me, even if we didn't. He was undetectable, and I was on PrEP. Still, we had to say the words. As a millennial in the 2000s, I never knew a time that you didn't have this pre-sex conversation.
During these troubled times, encompassing a multitude of catastrophic global concerns, from lingering COVID anxiety to the conundrum of warring in the Middle East, from the reality of eco-disaster to a shocking resurgence of racism and homophobia, you might ask yourself, is there anything in my toolbox that can help me navigate these tumultuous waters? Our QueerWisers searched their experiences surrounding AIDS and discovered that the imprint of HIV/AIDS still exists. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
So, okay. To be honest, transparent, I am out of candles. I'm out in all colors, and I have no intention of getting any more. Done with candles. I'm also out of quilt squares and quilt materials and thread, and I am out of anything to do with sewing, quilting, and nope, not getting any more. Done. No more candles, no more quilt squares, no more ribbons. And while we're at it, I ditched the last of the poster board. My markers are gone, used up, dried up, gone. The poles and the staple guns, gone, borrowed, left in the street, gone. Yeah, I got a tattoo that said rise, that can only be read when I put my fist in the air. Yeah, sure, I can still put my fist in the air. I mean, yes, if you're asking, of course, I still got plenty of shoes. I can still put one foot in front of the other. I mean, you know, I walk my dog every night for an hour. I still got walking shoes. But, you know, I can't get so... I mean, the truth is, I still gotta get up. You know, teach. I've got 240 students. 240 students, I still gotta give homework to. Never mind grade, never mind, I mean, just never mind, never mind. I got so much. No matter what else is out there, I still got shit to do. You know, all the things. Shower, eat, be in a family, walk the dog. And who does it serve if I don't? Who does it serve if I am so guilty of being alive? I mean, you know, the unforgettable, the unforgivable. I want to shut all the doors to my heart. I want to shut down all 4 valves. If I was an octopus, I would have 3 hearts. And I would have already gone through 1. Completely worn out. And if I was an octopus, I could just let my extra heart beat in time with atrocity. And I would still have an extra heart to live with. But I'm human. And my heart, I want to lock all 4 valves. Because I want to keep going.
I wake up so tired because I can't remember waking up when what we do doesn't matter more than ever. Will there ever be a time for it to matter less than ever? Will the demise of civilization as we know it ever cut us a break? Just for a year or two, before I get too old to enjoy it. I roll over and turn on something, anything, to make sure there's been no new calamity. I seek out friendly electronic voices. When I first wake up, I stick to opinions on my own intellectual clan. I move toward breakfast, the most important meal of the day. Listing the tasks on tap and the actions I can plan to rouse the rabble. By the time I've finished eating and walking the dog, I remember how tired I am. I want to go back to bed. Then I remember all the matters more than ever and determined to at least do one thing. I zero in on an upcoming action and get engaged in sending out the word, organizing my own network to lend support. I stress to everyone that what we do matters more than ever now. The people in my circle hear me. They understand. They're awake. They have their own beds to make. They promise to matter when they can. I try to tell my people that they can both make the bed in such a way that it will still matter more than ever. They smile at me. They ask me if I've slept. They say I look tired. I confess that I wake up tired.
Gathering at the LGBTQ Center for a queer writers reading. My friend Pat saw me and asked, "Can I hug you?" I said yes, and breathed into her tight embrace, and realized just how close to the surface tears always are these days. Pat released me, and her wife Mary hugged me. I said nothing. Pat looked at me closely and asked, "Can I hug you again?" I nodded, and she did, and again I almost sobbed, grief mixed with gratitude for our community of loving queer friends who truly see each other at the worst times as well as the best. I wake up, and the weight settles on my chest. How many people died under bombs, had limbs torn from them, suffocated under rubble while I slept? How many are always tormented by images of children stabbed, women raped, elders burned to death? How many are tortured by the horror of not knowing where their loved ones are? I remember this palpable grief that threatens to crush. I remember AIDS. But now it's not a ghost blitz that only we can see. Now everyone sees it, online, every day. I wake up. I don't want to wake up. I have to wake up because of what keeps me wanting to be in bed. I have to wake up because it matters more than ever now, what we do. I don't get to withdraw. Every night I consider what I failed to do that day. I assure myself that tomorrow I will find something constructive to do about the situation. The situation has become a phrase that stands for intractable horror. Soon after the news from Israel-Palestine had started to come in, I lunched outdoors with a friend. We were on a patio drinking coffee, reminiscing, catching up as old friends do. Two aging lesbians, one white, one black. No one bothered us. There were no bombs. There was iced water if we wanted it. What extravagant luxury. I demonstrate for peace. I intervene on the internet. I live my daily Judaism in prayer and wording and call for ceasefire now. That's what I do. And it feels contemptibly inadequate.
It has been said that we are losing our ability to empathize. Are we also losing our ability to hope?
Truth and dare. Truth and dare. Does it matter if I care? Prompted to give voice, because it's only fair. Yet there's still a huge void in this share. We discussed the necessity of the palatability of how levity seems the tool for this run. But not for me, not for me. Oh, I smile, I ponder, and I realize we must take turns in this global spin, which has random thunder. Folks, I don't really want to admit it, but this is hard shit. Fear can overtake my attempt at fun. I'm weighing and reflecting the countless souls repeatedly bring me back to truth and dare. Truth and dare. It seems my muse must have music to breathe the air.
Because because of Arthur Partington, my teacher, I quit the varsity lacrosse team in order to take ballet as my required sports commitment. The first boy ever to do this at my boarding school, Choke. Now, if you had seen my technique, you would have realized that I was turning this beautiful art form into a contact sport. I was unbelievably bad. But Arthur endured my bumbling moves and encouraged me to continue, fully realizing that we were making a political statement rather than creating a new Baryshnikov. God love him. I remember him looking at me quizzically, suppressing his laughter, dear man, and saying, well, that's interesting. Let's try that again, shall we, Bradford? And could we put a little air into those jetés? I had never really met gay men before. And I thank God that the first couple I learned from was Arthur and his partner John, who taught voice at the school. How much strength and dignity must it have taken for those two men in 1972 to be who they were and teach the way they did in a kind of community where sports and machismo were the coveted calling cards of the day. I will never forget Arthur and John taking a select few of us to a modern dance recital at Wesleyan University. I believe it was the first such recital I'd ever seen, and I can just imagine my poor Southern Baptist grandmother spinning in her grave as she watched her young grandson sit in front of fully nude dancers not 10 feet away from me. My goodness, I remember saying to Arthur, watching these rather large testicles jiggling in their grand jetés, it must be very painful trying to concentrate on the movement with all that flopping about. Arthur and John simply smiled, knowing they were opening up new doors and new ways of expression that would surely make the administration of Choate blanch if they knew where we were. What did Arthur tell them? I think he said we were on some sort of field trip. Yeah, indeed, what a field that was. I count my blessings all the time for the opportunity I had to learn from these great masters. I would not be half the man I think I am without having had them shape this shy little boy who walked into that art center that day so many years ago.
My dear friend Michael was a puppeteer, a ballet dancer. He had grace, he had perfect turnout, beautiful arched feet and great posture. He held his head high as if he were a marionette being pulled up by a string. His expressive hands completed every thought, even though the fingernails were kind of chewed down on each finger. He would burst into song at any moment, dancing as if on starlight. We had so many adventures. Cocktails and poppers at Rave on Santa Monica Boulevard, stepping back in time in the Grand Ballroom at the Queen Mary, the Ship, not the nightclub, remember that nightclub in the Valley, and the Oscars. Yes, we went to the Oscars. I looked fabulous. So did he. I wore an off-the-shoulder, floor-length dress of teal, orange rhinestone earrings. He wore a tux. Honestly, I barely remember what happened that night, but it was a blast. Now, I learned from Michael. I learned how to go after what you want, even if you don't know how to get there. New York. I visited him in New York, and it was a special adventure. He took me to my new favorite store in the whole world, Tender Buttons. A teeny storefront in Manhattan, each shelf stacked from floor to ceiling with boxes of the most amazing buttons you could find in the entire world. Mother of pearl, black ivory, sparkly, wooden, buttons with griffins, intricate designs of metal wire, plastic, antique, beyond what any human could imagine. I wake up with music in my heart. Music that reminds me of him. Music that makes me want to dance. I wake up missing him every day. I wake up today remembering the brutal turmoil in the world, not knowing what I can do to make it right, yet wanting to try, or not even wanting to fucking think about it at all. How can people be so evil to other people? Humans to other humans? Bloodshed, murder, hostage taking, babies. Children dying. I wake up longing to be with my friends, with my community. I wake up to find joy for another day.
So we're honoring World AIDS Day. And Reverend Steve Peters died just a few months ago. Something should be said. Have you ever had a best friend who became an icon? It can be awkward. There's the normal person, and then there's the big person. It's hard enough to know what to say when your bestie dies on you. It's especially hard with Steve. Even with all the AIDS and death and tragedy all around us, I don't know how many friends said, I thought this day would never come when he died. We all thought he was immortal. And well, of course, he is. Anyway, my favorite Steve story isn't about AIDS, Steve the AIDS emblem, or Steve the guy Tammy Faye interviewed. It's about Steve the dork next door. Lucia, my house is on fire, my house is on fire! Steve was screaming for me across our Mount Washington courtyard. There were 3 old-styled Hollywood bungalows and a large Craftsman duplex on some little rolling hills climbing up from the railroad tracks. The funky old places were all quirky. Mine had a bed that rolled away into a cupboard under the bathroom. For some reason, Steve's bathroom had an electrical outlet installed on the floor next to the sink instead of the wall. Oh my God, call 911, I yelled back as I put down whatever I was doing and ran across the grassy yard. When I arrived, I found Steve standing barefoot, pouring water on the bathroom floor outlet on what he thought was an electrical fire from a metal teapot. No, I screamed, drop it! He was so startled he jumped back and the teapot came crashing down. There were flames shooting up, he cried. I walked over slowly and felt the floor around the outlet and the wall above, and they were cool to the touch. I don't think it's burning, I tried to say in a soothing voice. Well, it was, he screamed back at me. That icon could be a fucking little brat sometimes. The fire department came and went, finding no immediate danger. Once again, Steve the miracle dork boy survived.
I hate playing the what if game. What if a vaccine existed for HIV? Scott would be alive today and proud of my accomplishments as a novelist and playwright. I like being haunted by him. I can show off my knowledge of bel canto opera with the best of the remaining queens on the planet, an imprint that Scott left on me. And those deaths in the 1980s didn't prepare me for losing my friends to colon and pancreatic and brain and lung cancer in the present. AIDS and cancer have wiped out my peers, and now no one is left who understands. I need to keep repeating the lyrics to the song from Wicked about all the ways that I've been changed for good. Repeating their sweet talents through me. I don't need to mourn the AIDS deaths. I just need to be possessed in a sweet way.
Possessed in a sweet way. I dare say that's what most of us want, isn't it? We QueerWisers, Skylighters, thank you for sharing your evening with us. And I promise you, we'll be back next year. See you later.
Great Spirit, we thank you for these stories and ask you that we take these remembrances and put them to service for others. Aho.
Thanks for accompanying us on this scheduled ride. And the journey continues with different entrances and exits. And we continue to keep showing up for each other the best that we can.
AIDS taught me to cherish the moments. There's a saying, life is not made up of days, but of moments. None of it is promised. AIDS taught me to cherish the laughter and the tears, the feeling of defeat and the rush of fighting back, the song of community and the love of change that grows from caring. In the end, it's about loving hard and fighting hard.
AIDS took me on a hellacious journey. 50 years later, I have to fight off those crystal clear memories and replace them with morsels of positive energy. I keep searching for coping mechanisms.
I learned to laugh a lot more at myself. I mean, you have to have a sense of humor if you're going to practice successful, safer sex with another person and enjoy each other. And if the next halfway you like doesn't have a sense of humor, find another dyke or another non-binary queer and have fun. I mean, we need to dance and sing and laugh, enjoy our joy because we deserve it. We're here, we're queer, and we will always be.
The AIDS years taught me that the people and things you put your energy into aren't necessarily the sources of your replenishment. If you only focus on those people for reciprocation, you might miss the blessings that are pouring in from all other directions.
Knowing about HIV/AIDS and those affected has taught me to be hyper-aware of safe sex, health, well-being, and to be very open to talking about status and testing without shame. Others should know that while AIDS is no longer a death sentence for most people, it still affects millions of people around the globe.
AIDS took so much from the world, from us, from me, from you. Yet the gifts I received from those dear ones have always been with me. They live on in me. They live on in our memories, our community. Every drag show, every puppet show, every fucking Pride March is a testament to the power of our spirit. We will not forget. We will live with our voices loud and our hearts open.